If it's telling you that it's using the microphone and the microphone's working, the built-in type of thing.
Now they're all, like Melissa Eaton is messaging the chat earlier, so
this is on the YouTube, right? Why don't you just do a Zoom meeting or something then?
Well, that's what they're hinting at doing, so I guess I'm just going to have to, but I have to set it up and send all the links out. But I don't know who all the parents are. Info, everything was sent through to do this. So.
Well, then just make a video, unless you have to have a question and answer.
Well, this was their opportunity to ask me questions about what we've decided with CIY. So.
Can you do it on Facebook then?
I could do Facebook Live if I can get some of the parents. Let me. Okay, Melissa can hear. Okay, good. We're finally on. Finally, I was like Melissa. I was telling Steve, I'm like, you couldn't hear on the other, and everybody was messaging me and they couldn't hear. So, I think we might have it, Steve. I don't know how, but
good. All right, buddy.
All right, thanks. Steve says hi, everyone.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Steve.
All right, no problem. Bye.
All right. Phew, man, that took long enough. Sorry, guys. I was trying to answer everybody's parents, let Steve know. I'm like, there's different people who couldn't hear. I'll try to message that it's working now. Thank you, Eric, Howard, Melissa, Jess. I'm going to message Kimberly. Working now. Whew-wee. All right, so here's another chance for everybody to log in. Hopefully, we haven't lost everyone completely there. So we had a few folks confused about what the meeting was and all this different stuff. So I'm glad everybody's able to get logged in now, or at least it's coming out there auditory wise. So we will get started here in just a few moments. I'm still messaging a few folks. It is working. Okay. Awesome stuff. As you all are part of the meeting, this is your opportunity to kind of learn about CIY. That's why I wanted to kind of go ahead and do this, because this is the link that went out to everybody this week. So I was going to have to try to scramble and message all the parents and leaders and everybody else who's going on this at once and try to figure out who has Facebook or who has Zoom or who has all this different stuff. So I'm glad that it's working. Kimberly, if you are able to log back on, I just messaged Maggie. That was the first person I had on my phone to try to get some communication back out there. And kind of go from there. Looks like I have 3 people on. So I know I had Eric and I know I had Melissa. So if you are not familiar with the Cap City student channel, there's actually a live stream chat option. We actually use it a lot on Sunday nights. You can actually log in, subscribe to the channel, which we always like subscribers. And you actually type in comments, questions. Of course, if that's just too new for you or too confusing, you can always email me, text questions. You can send them to the Facebook page or any of our multiple social medias. That's why I have my phone here, kind of keeping everything focused, and kind of going from there. But a big question right now was CIY. After multiple weeks of trying to figure out what the right decision was going to be, I've met with John, met with Doc. I know they have a meeting with eldership as well. So we want to make the decision to continue on with Christ in Youth this summer. At this point, they do not have any closures at the Panama City Beach location. I know they're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like nationwide with all their different venues. But at this time, the Panama City Beach location is open, and they're presuming that it'll continue on. In the event that it cancels, I'll make sure we get communication out to you. We'll either do a video or we'll try to do this again if this works. because technology just doesn't seem to work well with us these days. But I'll keep everybody posted. But at this point, we're continuing on. You should have received an email, I think an email from me this past week, and kind of some of the changes. I know we did a Facebook post as well. COI has their two components. We have Move, which is geared for high school ministry, and then we have COI Mix that is geared for middle school ministry. Before the virus stuff set in, any of the changes started taking place, any of that stuff, we had very low registration for CIY Mix. That's because it was in July. We had a lot of student athletes that weren't going to be able to attend the middle school one because of the time frame that it fell in. And, it was hard for people to really solidify their plans for July, May 1st. May 1st was the deadline to kind of get everything registered and get everything submitted. Well, then the virus stuff hit our nation and impacted the Commonwealth, and we had folks who had decided to not attend Mix, which as a parent, whether it was CIY Move, CIY Mix, that was your decision-making that we support you on, whether we do this or not. But we appreciate those who are supporting us, and we appreciate those who made the decision to not participate in CIY. That's fine. We are, looking at other options. But because of that low attendance, after meeting with John, meeting with Doc, kind of talking things over, we decided to cancel CIY Mix, which would be the July 19th venue. Had to get everything submitted by this past Friday, May 1st, and based on the attendance that was registered, it just did not make sense to have that trip with such a low turnout registered for Mix. It would have cost those individual students a lot of money to take that trip, simply because there was not enough people to justify taking it. I mean, we had the church van / bus that we could have used, but the cost of everything else would have been a lot more for those particular students, simply because there was not enough people going that kind of balance out the additional cost. Whereas with CIY Move, with a higher attendance of high schoolers attending, we can actually split those costs up a little bit more. So we just made the decision that was not in the best interest of this particular season. I think it would have been a very, very low turnout up to May 1st, regardless of the virus, but the virus definitely had an impact on it. So we made the decision, we canceled CIY Mix, and we have allowed those 8th graders that were registered for CIY Mix, because that's everybody else who had canceled was in the lower grades, but those 8th graders are close enough to promoting into the high school ministry. And since we combine ours anyway on a Sunday, we're allowing those 8th graders to attend CIY Move with us at Panama City Beach. So we'll get all that worked out. I'm going to pause just for a moment and check. I think we might have had a question or something come through, but if you have any questions so far, remember you have the live chat, email, all those different things. I don't want to miss anybody's questions, so I'm just going to double check, make sure I have not missed anything on this live chat. Okay. Nope, that was something else. So, but we are looking at what CIY is going to look like from this point forward. If I get a phone call, email, text, whatever it is, that they cancel CIY Move, so let's say Florida shuts it down, or the school or the facilities or different things that we're going to be using this summer get shut down for some odd reason. Well, not odd reason. I guess the virus is not odd at this point. But if something changes from what the current game plan is right now, we are looking at a local camp. And what I mean by that is there's the potential that if it closes, we will look at doing something here on site, meaning in Frankfort. If that change occurs, I'll keep you all posted. I've definitely been working on a plan B option from the whole start of knowledge of the coronavirus stuff, just to be prepared. We have no promises. The month of June could get here and things could be a lot better, or the month of June could get here and things look a lot worse. We pray and we stay optimistic, but we just don't know what it'll look like. Unfortunately, this is a season that we've kind of had to go day by day. I know that can be extremely hard as a parent. I know for some of you might have to make decisions to tell your student no. It's been very hard because it's, as the student minister, as the relatively new student minister, first time doing CIY as their student minister, it's difficult to make those decisions. We want to keep everybody safe and be aware of everything going on. So I'll keep you all posted on that. If that happens, what that would look like. It would definitely be a shorter camp experience versus the whole week-long thing, but we would look at what we could do here on site. One perk about Capital City is the fact that we are relatively a large church. We have that new green space. We have our own student worship center, and we have a lot of stuff around us here in Frankfort. So we could still participate in some way. The big part of CIY is the Kingdom Worker Initiative. So that's getting out there and serving others through Christ, with Christ. So we have a lot of those opportunities right here at our back door. So I'll keep everybody posted if anything changes like that. The next thing I want to look at after I check for questions again here is we're going to talk about anticipated cost. Oh, no, that's another. Okay. So what we're looking at is anticipated cost. If there's any questions, please make sure you send those on, and I'll kind of break down where we're at cost-wise right now. And the reason I'm pausing is there's about a 20-second delay when it comes to our YouTube live streams. So I don't want to jump into something right in the middle of you typing a question. So I'm trying to make those little mini breaks to let that 20 seconds lapse, simply because I don't want to miss a question and start on a new topic. If we need to go back and look at anything, we can. All right, so let's talk a little bit about CIY expenses. This year, a lot of folks ask, why is it going to cost $450 for our student to go? So at that point, this was early, maybe January, when I first started looking at some of those costs, and then, kind of breaking it down. This is what it looks like based on students. So the actual event itself is $239. So that is your CIY registration. That includes registering for the event, and that includes the meals that are provided either on site or part of the package, so to speak. So we have the cafe that they offer there. Not sure what that looks like right now, but if that changes, they'll make those accommodations because that's part of their CIY package. But your basic CIY rate is $239. The room, so it's different with this particular CIY venue because you're not on site, like we're not at a university to where you're in dorms or anything like that. So we're actually at a hotel on the beach, and the worship facilities that they're using for CIY, which is actually a local school, relatively large school, is about 2 miles down the road. The cost for those rooms for the week for each student, we factored out to be close to $160 per student. And that's just because of the cost of the room itself. We reserved some suites at a beachfront hotel. That way they would have room available. It's, you break it down they're going to be lodging there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. So that's 4 nights. So 4 nights at $160 each for those suites at beachfront in Panama City is a pretty good deal that they are offering our students for CIY. The next part of that would be transportation. We factored in about $50 per student for transportation. And then that came out to, I think, $4.49. So we did a $1 miscellaneous just because we wanted to plan for extra. So we just made it $4.50 for each student. And how that kind of works is the students are assisting with their small group leaders going as well. That's kind of factored in. We do not charge a small group leader to attend. They have a huge leadership role that might involve driving. It definitely involves staying. So we'll just kind of have to kind of plan around that, so to speak. So we allow the students, or ask the students, so to speak, to absorb the cost of their leaders. We're not taking 30 or 20 or even 10 leaders. It's a very, very small number that'll be assisting with driving, and kind of essential, a chaperone for offsite. We'll see how I assist with it on site, but they're going to assist with absorbing that cost. Now, we did participate in some fundraising efforts throughout the end of 2019, early 2020. And then again, hey, Kimberly, thanks for coming back on. We're glad you're here. We just kind of been going over some of the CLY details, and then we're talking a little bit about cost right now. Yay, I'm glad you can hear. I'm so sorry. We have these settings that we do when we do our live stream on Sunday night that apparently something was muted that I didn't know. So I just had to reset everything. So please pray for Steve and Tater, because they probably have to reset something that I just undid on my computer that has to be back. But they're really good at that stuff, so we'll get it fixed. So again, $239 for the event itself, $160 for the room at the venue, $50 transportation, and $1 miscellaneous would make up that $450. That's the reason for the $450 cost. Now, we did have our fundraising efforts throughout the first part of January, and then we did our big fundraising into February, early March, where we had the wall at the main worship center where we were able to fundraise. Based on what I've learned from that fundraiser so far, it looks like we'll be able to factor in about $100 towards the students. $100, not just $100, but $100 for each student that's registered. We'll be able to factor into that cost. We also have our CLY budget that we're trying to look at the right decisions on transportation wise. With that one, I haven't weighed weighing our options. Man, I guess I'm so ready to talk tonight that I haven't prepared for this one as well, and I'm just spilling over my words. But we're trying to figure out what the best idea is going to be transportation wise. There are pros to taking vans over a bus. There are also cons to taking vans over a bus. Vans give us a lot more mobility. So in the event that we need to run to a Walmart, for example, let's say that we were going to go down to the beach and do an extra little meal together. We needed to be able to run to Walmart. Taking a van with a couple leaders to run and do that versus having to take the bus or possibly rent something down there for those type things, makes a big difference. The plus side to a bus is that, one, there's a little extra comfort versus in a van, a little bit easier to transport everything. And we can probably space people out a little bit better than we could in a van. So I will be looking at those details at the first part of this week. This past week was do we go to CIY? Yes or no? This week we'll now be looking at, okay, we're going, providing that it stays open. We're going, and what are the details we now need to look at for cost? If we decide to not go the bus route, we'll probably be able to knock the cost down a little bit more. My goal is to get it from $450 to $350 for the students, as mentioned, with the fundraising effort side of it. That would be the goal. We did have a couple people that we are scholarshiping because the church donations had offered or designated it to be for scholarship. So we factored those in as well. So we're kind of looking at what the next step's going to be. If we end up going the van route, we already have two in our possession. So we're going to have the church bus, and then we'll have the church van. and then we might possibly look at some additional rentals. That's why it would be a little bit cheaper. Well, we're a couple thousand probably if we did the van route versus a bus route. Paul Donaldson is asked the question, in case you don't have the live stream, are planning to do more fundraisers. At this point, we hadn't looked at more fundraisers. I'm not opposed to it. It's kind of tough right now on what we might be allowed to do as we are entering the different phases of reopening the church. So I'll need to look at that with Doc and John a little bit further to see if that's something we can do, what it would look like, if there's a way to do it online, or if there's a way to do it not in-house, or do a big push, maybe like May 15th to May 31st even. I know that's approaching very quickly, but if CIY does continue, our balance is due to them June 1st. So we're looking, the 3rd? So we got less than 30 days now to consider a fundraising option. I'm not against it. It would just be something I need to have on my radar this week. And hopefully, looking at our fundraising efforts that we've done, we will be able to pull the cost down a little bit more. So it's a great question. I'm going to pause again for other questions, because remember we said that there's about a 20-second delay, and then I'll check and see if any email questions have come in. All right, we got a question in from Sarah Howard that asks, how many kids and leaders are going? As it sits right now, I have 33 student slots and 7 leader slots. One of those leader slots hasn't been confirmed yet. They haven't fully committed. That's why I have an odd number there. So we wanted to make sure we could get somebody else in that's kind of their backup in the event that cancels. And then we have 33 student slots excuse me, I lost my train of thought there. We have 33 slots that are reserved for the students, of which 31 are filled. I kept 2 extra just because we might have had somebody that got lost in the shuffle, so to speak. They may have filled something else online and then haven't been back here at the church, haven't interacted with me and go, hey, I thought I registered my student. So I wanted to make sure we had those there as a backup, so to speak. I did talk to CIY, and we can add people even after May 1st. We just had to have our numbers as for our payment up to this point. So we are paid up, so to speak, right now with our current numbers. If we add people, we will just have to be mindful of that, and then be mindful of transportation as well. So right now we're at 40, which would mean my assumption would be that we could not pack out a van if we were going to do that route. So we're looking at four vans. So Melissa's question, the fundraiser was for high school too. That's correct. So the fundraising was actually for, we did a next gen fundraiser specifically for Cap City kids and then Cap City students. So unless it was designated specifically for kids, high school, middle school, or preschool, so like some folks might have said, hey, here's $100, but I want this to go towards a scholarship for the Bluegrass Camp. Well, that money would have been designated just for Cap City kids. Or they might have contacted me and say, hey, I dropped an envelope off, but I put this is for CIY only. So that money would have been designated. But then everything else that was just generous donation on the envelope, went into one big thing, and then it is split right down the middle. It's something that Lisa and I partnered with versus having multiple fundraisers. So rather than the kids having a lunch and then the high school's having a lunch and then everybody tries to do a car wash, everybody tries to do this, we found a way to combine those this year. And what we did is we split those costs, and we'll be able to put those towards the student needs. So I know in the past it was just the middle and high school that did the envelope thing, and then kids did bake sale or the lunch thing where you provided for the luncheon type thing. But this year we decided to combine those efforts. So that way there would be money that was scholarship for the Bluegrass Camp, and then money that was scholarship for middle and high school. So I am hoping that we do have more than just the 100 to offer. I just have to finalize the transportation cost of it before I have that exact number. I'd say there's probably a little bit more than that there. That was just the rough estimate. Just looking at it the other day with Lisa, I was able to say, well, we should have at least 100 per student, which should take your cost down to $350. Good question so far. I'm going to check email and everything again. If you have any other questions, kind of wait for that little pause to come through. All right, scrolled through there and let it refresh, and nothing else came through. And I'm still watching on the YouTube end. So where we're at right now, again, we're still looking at about $450, trying to bring it down to $350, and then trying to make the best decision on transportation. I was hoping to have a transportation finalized, but with all the deadlines and everything happening so quick with May 1st, we weren't able to finalize everything on the transportation side of it just then and there. So we'll definitely have more communication coming out to you. I plan on doing text, email, videos, whatever we can to keep everybody in the loop on what the next step will be. The registration side of it, they're registering out medical info and all those different details, so to speak. We waited to do a lot of that information until we got a little bit closer to what Florida's going to look like. But then we'll start sending out the contact info on filling out application, medical information, all those different things. You know, we'll have like our church waiver, so they can transport with us or travel with us, I should say. And then the CIY information, we'll be getting that out to you. So. Any other questions specific to cost or fundraising or CIY? And I'll pause for a moment before I move into the next thing. All right, so I think that gave everybody time to kind of do some questions there, kind of catch up with the delay a little bit. So what we're looking at for CIY details itself is if we're going to Panama City Beach, we're looking at leaving on Sunday the 21st. That way we can try to offset the drive a little bit. This is a very valuable date to leave, whether we're taking a bus or whether we're taking vans. We're looking at stopping possibly in Birmingham or Huntsville area, somewhere in that vicinity of Alabama. So we would probably leave here on the 21st around 3 p.m. So students or you as parents, whatever is easiest for you. I hadn't figured out lunch side of it yet on that Sunday after church, providing that we'll have a live service that day if we're in that stage of the phases at that point. But we would look at leaving at 3 p.m. and head down there either via bus or via van and stop either at Birmingham or Huntsville at a church. We're in contact with a couple right now, different churches that might be willing to allow us to bunk for the night. It would be a sleeping bag type thing. So we would put that on the list of items. I'm hoping to maybe get some additional donations on that, because I would hate to ask people to go buy a sleeping bag just for one night. But then we also have to keep an account with the COVID stuff. People might not want donated sleeping bags, maybe like it would have been back in the day, so to speak. But we'll figure that out when that time comes. But we are looking at leaving on the 21st, 3 p.m. We'll stop for the night in Alabama and do either a late supper, or we'll stop for supper and then just bunk there at a church that would be willing to have us. Get up. We won't have to be in a super rush that next morning of the 22nd, but then we can get down for the rest of the drive to Panama City. I believe registration starts at 1 o'clock, and then we can actually get there and not be in a rush. Would it be possible on a bus just to sleep through? Some students might not always want to sleep through. They might be full of energy and stuff. But that's a lot on a bus driver. If we did vans, that is way too much on our leaders. I just don't feel comfortable driving vans through the middle of the night with precious cargo. 15 passenger vans, we would have to look at stopping somewhere anyway. So we might as well see about staying at a church, make it a fun mini lock-in type experience there on that first night, then get down to Panama City Beach. We're not rushed. Everybody can kind of figure out what we need to do, figure out the routes we need to go, and kind of go from there. And then we'll be down there on the 22nd, registered for that series. The first day that begins on the 22nd. If you're not familiar with CIY, they'll do their hopefully do their typical kickoff. I'm sure some of the pomp and circumstance may have changed, maybe not. They're going through changes, trying to figure things out right now as well. So we will have our first session there, and then we will be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then up through Friday. One thing that's still up in the air right now is the Friday session. There is an afternoon Friday session that is an optional session. I don't want to deprive the students from anything that's part of the event, but this goes back to the van versus bus. If we were to do the bus, we can actually get a late checkout on that Friday for our bus driver. We're currently anticipating it. If we did a bus, I went ahead and reserved a private room for a bus driver. We can always cancel it, but we could get a late checkout for that bus driver, so they can essentially sleep or go lay out at the beach. Hopefully not lay out at the beach if they need to be sleeping. But we've mapped it out with that provider that they would get a late checkout, and then we would stay for that afternoon session, load up the kids, and the drivers said that at that point they could drive through to the morning. Sunday's a little bit different because of the time we would be leaving, but if they could get a late checkout, which, that's not going to cost that much more. If the hotel doesn't give it, the cost would be worth it at that point. And then we'll get a late checkout and go from there. And then drive straight through. And then everybody's kind of on the bus except for pit stops. And then we would be back that Saturday morning. So it does make for an extremely long week. But if we're going, I think we should make the most of that and make that possible for the students. Now, if it ends up going the van route, that Friday may have to change, because then we're looking at, do we need a church to stop at on the way back? A little bit easier for a church to say, sure, you can stay here on Sunday night if they don't have a Sunday night service. Maybe not as easy on a Friday night. So we just kind of have to consider those things, though, that'll be weighed in. So the Friday is kind of like a bonus, the Friday afternoon, not the morning session, but the Friday afternoon, that bonus session for the students might be optional depending on transportation. So that kind of maps out the entire week. I will be on the trip, so rest assured that I am going. If we go, we're going. I will be there. So it won't just be our leaders by themselves. Not that they couldn't do a great job, but this is an opportunity for me to spend time with the students, but also we'll be able to be there as the student minister. Steve and Tater, in the event that we are going live, which we plan on, Steve and Tater are in charge of that Sunday night service for students who aren't attending. So we will still have a Sunday night service. We'll probably invite folks to do a special prayer service that Sunday at maybe 2:30 as we load up, but we will have a Sunday night service for the students that they'll take care of. So. Yes, Kim, that's correct. It should be at least $100. I'm calculations really quick on Friday, trying to finalize everything and looked at the numbers. So we're going to run through it all again this week. So Lisa and I can actually sit down now and go, okay, this is what came in, and then figure out. But I know it was at least $100. So it should be $350 per student rather than the original $450, based on the fundraising. The fundraising cost should bring it down. And then also our CIY budget, we're just going to have to make the decision. It's going to be a tough one. It really is a tough one on bus versus van. There's pros to both and there's cons to both. And we just got to figure out what's the best thing to do. We've looked at bus whole week. We've looked at bus down, van rental, and then bus back. We've looked at van only. So definitely weighing it out to figure out what the best thing will be, safety-wise, convenience-wise. So, but yeah, if you did miss it, you should have at least $100 coming. Yeah, Melissa, that's the safest thing is a big thing. Convenience, if need be. We don't want to have extra expenses, but if we need to do like a cheap enterprise type thing there, I'm sure we can factor that in, or I can factor that in myself if we just needed to figure out a way to transport some stuff or do a quick rental. The original game plan was we would take the bus and then we would take the church bus as well. So we would actually take a bus for the students and have leaders on that bus. And then the church bus would serve as an overflow. So for example, if we had a last minute registration group that came through and just really wanted to go to CIY, and we were able to get paperwork in, we try to avoid last minute registrations, but if we had somebody that just really wanted to go, we're not going to say no if CIY doesn't. CIY says no, that's a different story. But if we can get people registered, we want to have that bus for that overflow, for leaders, and then it would be an opportunity for somebody to swap out. So I would drive that church bus, and then at each stop we would swap out with another leader who would take over some of that driving while the other leaders rest on the bus, and then we would have it for convenience. We may still go that route. Right now we have a 54 passenger bus that we were going to reserve, and we have 40 people with our reservation. Like, how big of a cost difference would it be? on the bus simply because it's a gentleman that's worked with some other Frankfurt venues, really supportive of the church and ministry, and a believer himself. The driver has offered to drive the bus at a very, very low fee. They were just taking care of some very minor expenses. So it's a really good deal if we do go that route. I'm not trying to push it or sell it, but we would be getting a really good deal. It was about $3,000 cheaper than anything else I found on my own. So it's a really good deal there. But we may take a smaller bus and then still take our bus too, and then that might be the solution. It's just we'd have to figure out the whole swap out the driver thing. So I'm gonna pause again because something came through. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody's questions on email or anything like that. Trying to keep up with different emails, getting ready for tonight as well. Open forum now. That kind of is what I had so far. We have a couple minutes left before we'll go into Sunday night prep. I didn't want to keep everybody more than an hour, but I know we were kind of lost 10 minutes there, so I don't mind going over a little bit longer. Any questions or any more questions that you might have regarding where we're at CIY-wise? And then Sarah, I'm not sure if you're still on. I know you joined us earlier. I think most of the questions I've had coming through so far, a lot of these students have attended a form of CIY before. So these parents might already know some of those ins and outs. So if you have some more questions that you want to email or call me about for Eric, I know, I don't believe, based on talking with Eric, I don't think he's been to CIY before. If he has, and I'm mistaken, I apologize. But I know most of the students' parents that are on here right now, they've attended. I know Maggie could probably have done our student volunteers tonight. So packing list and itinerary, I'll have that a little bit later. Packing list is pretty much like most camp stuff. I do have our one that we use that I need to go through. I mean, most student ministers are pretty much the same on all this stuff. I think the only one that they were asking about, we had a relatively new question, was the swimwear one. It's both CIY rule and Cap City rule. For the ladies, has to be a one-piece. If they don't own a one-piece, then you have to have a T-shirt over a two-piece. But for guys, trunks are acceptable. But we'll go over the rest of the packing list. Like, since it is a beach setting, then it would be clothing that you're okay having around the beach, sunscreens and all those different things for that type of it. Comfortable clothing. We're going to be in a kind of like our student worship center times 10. So it's going to be around a bunch of kids who are out having fun, doing games, being at the beach. So essentially clothing that they're comfortable running around in, stuff like that. But and then the itinerary, I can get that typed up as well. We can have, hopefully, I don't want to promise anything, but hopefully we'll be able to have an stuff. We were going to be in person, but I didn't want to cancel this because I knew you all would still have some questions out there of what things might look like, and I didn't want you to just be sitting out there and then last minute I say, okay, here we go, and then you got to make your payment. So Sarah, I'm not sure what events they're actually going to do this year. The Kingdom Worker Initiative, usually involves them either going out into the community or going out with an assigned project or goal when they come back. This year, I'm not sure. I've got the follow-up meetings with CIY once they've made those decisions, what they're actually going to have students doing project-wise. I know they had originally said they were going to try to get them out into the communities more. That was going to be something maybe new this year, a little bit different this year, but now that could have changed. So that might look a little bit different. I know when they've emailed us before, they said here's some things to keep in mind for Kingdom Worker activities. So they're kind of treading lightly right now on what that might look like. It's probably the first time in history. Well, I know it is the first time in history for CIY. It's for us as well. Like that, we're just kind of all, I don't know. We're going, so we'll kind of figure that out. But the goal of Kingdom Worker is being the church. It's accepting a challenge to do something for the sake of Christ. This past year, 2019, several of our girls that went to Michigan came back with a Kingdom Worker initiative, and they made the goal that they would participate in a luggage drive for fostering or children who've been removed either temporarily or conditionally removed from homes that might have been deemed unsafe, but didn't have any personal luggage of their own. So they participated in a drive for that as their Kingdom Worker project. So there are things that could involve people, and there are things that should involve material items that eventually get to people. Good questions, everybody. I like it. I think the only other thing I really had was the lodging side of it. Cap City has a rule that we can have an adult in the room, but they are not permitted to be in the bed with a student, and that's even including same genders. Usually for the guys, that's not a problem. I know for ladies, sometimes they don't think twice about that. At least in some ministry experiences, they're really buddies or friends with them, and they don't think twice about that. But we went with the suites this year simply because it has 2 rooms. So you go into a main door, and it has a separate room that has you have like 2 beds in one, and then it's got the pull-out sofa in another, and another bed. It's kind of like a bonus thing. That way, in the event that we wanted to scale down our rooms, I'm looking right now to see what the best decision is there. If we could even bring the cost down a little bit more. If it's just a couple bucks, then it's not going to be worth it. But we're looking at, there's a possibility that some rooms will have just students, and then right next to that, the rest of that student group with a leader in that room. For example, if we had, I think it's 5 people to a suite. So let's say that we had 9 girls and 1 leader in that particular group of young ladies. Well, we would have 5 girls in one room, and then the next room would have 4 girls, and then the leader in that room, and that would be your 5 and 5. But I would set those up on the same floor, right next to each other, if that makes sense. Kim, the return date is scheduled for Saturday morning at this time. That is based on probably if we do the bus, I believe it was 9 a.m. was what the bus company had factored in. If we did that route, it would be a 9 a.m. Return Saturday morning. I know that can be very difficult, tie up Saturdays in the event that we needed to drop students off. We would figure that out. But that is based on, do we stay for the full Friday is on that. And then from Jen, this is Jen, can we do like a GoFundMe type deal? You probably could. Can we? No. I don't think that falls in our Cap City guidelines. I don't mind running it past John. John's the executive minister, so he would know more about what we're allowed to do fundraising wise, to see if there's still anything that we could do. But I don't mind running that idea past him. Kim. Yeah, Kim. I'm thinking that the gotcha means that you got that last part of that. But yeah, that's what we would look at. If it's a 5-person suite, which is what the hotel there had said, they're geared for 5 people, or set up that way. So my assumption would be is that we could put 4 teenage girls. You could put 4 girls on one side, and then you've got this other pull-out bed that you could put your leader in. So that's what we would look at doing. Good questions. All right, I'm gonna pause again, check one more time on email while we're here. Just don't want any question to get left out, and then that allows for this little bit of delay. I apologize if I've missed anybody, but I think by the time it gets here, it's like a 20-second thing, which is not too bad. Yeah, Jen, I'll check and see what's out there. I know when you have more than one student, that could be quite the cost. All right, one more shout out for questions before I start our wrap up here. I'll try to get everybody off here by 1:40 if possible. All right, I'll go ahead and wrap up then. If you ever have questions, though, you can always reach out to me. If you don't have my contact info, let me know. I guess I don't know how you let me know if you don't have it, but it is on all our church info and on the websites and stuff. We would look at phone. It's 502-594-7384. That's my cell, and that's publicized. It's on all the info we send out, so I don't mind sharing that. And then email is bjeffries@capitalcitychristian.org. So that's phone and email. If you want to reach out to me with any information that you might have, or questions for information about CIY, I'll be happy to talk with you. Feel free to text the phone number or send an email. And then I'll be posting on our Facebook page. So if you are not already followed, we do have our Cap City Students, which is Capital City Christian Church Student Ministry Facebook page. So we'll post usually on the Cap City Fam page, the Fam group, and then also on our Cap City Student page. And then we have our @CapCitySM for both Twitter and Instagram. And then, of course, I have my parent email that comes out weekly. We also utilize the Remind app that's free, the @CapCity Remind app that I think I've got most parents on. So there's lots of avenues where we'll be sending out information. Of course, as I learn more details, I'll be sharing that this year. Envelopes, but not very much. Yep. Yeah, Jen, that's true. I'll check on that. Sarah, you're welcome. And then, yes, Kim, I'm glad you said that. I forgot. Payments have been frozen at this time, or so to speak, not frozen. Golly, I can't think of the right words. But we're not sending CIY any more money until they confirm that we're having the actual venue. So they should be able to confirm by June 1st in the event that they are going to have it. Hopefully we know before then whether they're going to cancel or not. So they expect it by June 1st. We're not asking anything from you all at this time until we get closer to June 1st. So I might reach out probably May 20th just to kind of, or reach out May 15th about, I said the 20th, it's 2 weeks out. We'll look at when that next deadline would be for the payoff balance. First, I want to make sure I have the final cost for you, and then I can reach out and tell you this is what the final cost is going to be. We could essentially send it in and then take care of it on our end, and then you just owe the church, so to speak. So that's why we didn't want anybody necessarily worried about deadlines. We can essentially make the payment and then you pay us back, as long as you pay us back. Otherwise, we might not be doing anything else for 2020. I might not have a budget left. But so we're looking at June 1st as their deadline on when we would need to send more money in. We're just not going to send anything else at this time, because if they cancel, then you have to go through their refund process, and we might as well wait until we've got more of a confirmation. Let's see what the rest of May looks like, make sure they're not going to cancel on us, and then we'll go from there payment-wise. All right, any other questions? All right, if I missed anything, I'm going to kind of do a little spill here to just kind of make sure I give you all time here. But if I missed anybody's question, or you just didn't know how to answer it, again, feel free to reach out to me. I will keep you all posted. Again, we're going very prayerful with this and what we're trying to figure out what to do and go from there to make sure your students have an awesome summer experience. So, but yep, I'll be in touch. Have a great afternoon. I'm going to go get ready for the service now. See you later.